Hi, I'm Kyle Wilson, former amateur MMA champion with over 10 years experience training across various martial arts. In this video, I'm going to explain the fundamentals of the jab. The jab is a straight punch thrown with your lead hand. In my opinion, the jab is the most versatile and important punch in any striking art. There's lots of different variations to the jab, all of which we'll explore in this video. So without further ado, let's get into the technical detail. The first thing you'll be taught in any striking art or MMA is to keep your guard high. The purpose of a high tight guard is to protect your face in case you have to eat a punch. You'd rather take a shot on the big gloves than on your face. With this high guard, the jab has a straight trajectory out to your opponent and should be retreated back to your face as quickly as possible. As with any punch, the non-striking hand should stay tight to your face as to protect yourself if you have to eat a shot. So the rear hand should not be dropped to your chest or hip level, which would leave you open to a counter shot from your opponent. Always keep it nice and tight to your chin. Again, the jab should be on a straight line to the target and then retreated quickly back to my guard. A lot of beginners make the mistake of flaring their elbow when they jab. So rather than the punch being straight out and straight back, they flare the elbow, extend the fist, bring it back to this flared position and then drop the elbow. The problem with this is that when I flare my elbow, I'm leaving my hip ribs exposed for longer, which will leave me open to counter body hooks. Also, rather than making the punch one motion, i.e. punching straight out and back, the flaring of the elbow means the punch kind of comes in two parts. The flaring of the elbow, then the extension of the tricep and the fist. This means that the punch takes longer and it's more likely that the opponent will see it coming, leaving me open to that counter body shot. The jab is going to be your longest punch. Obviously, because straight punches gives you full extension of the arms as opposed to an uppercut or hook, your straight punches are going to be your longest shots. Obviously, because the jab is coming from your lead shoulder, which is closer to your opponent, this is going to be your longest punch. The jab is often used to control the range of the fight, so it's important that you try and get that full extension on the jab. As the fist makes contact with your opponent, you want your arm's extension to be at about 90%, and the last 10% should be you pushing through to generate power. I'll expand more on this in a moment. When jabbing, you're often taught to rotate the fist as you punch. So whilst the fist starts vertically, as it lands, it should land in a horizontal position. The reason for the twisting motion is to cut the opponent. The twist of leather or bone on bone often causes the skin to cut. The way to do this properly is to relax the arm all the way as you're punching. As I'm doing so, I'm slowly twisting from that vertical to horizontal position. Just before the point of contact, I want to tense my arm, close my fist and drive in that last bit of the twist. The twist on the skin is what causes the cut. So it should be relaxed, relaxed, relaxed. And here I'm beginning to tense, close my fist and drive in that last bit of the twist. So relaxed, tense, twist. This is what creates the pop effect that you hear people talk about when referring to punching power. Now personally, if I'm punching on a straight line trajectory with the jab, I would always twist the fist. However, there are times you will want to jab vertically. With a vertical jab, you almost want to jab down into your opponent, like you try and hit them with a hammer. This is a really unconventional jab, and I promise it's going to throw off a lot of people that you fight. It's not necessarily going to knock them out, but it's definitely going to confuse them. The beauty of this as well is that when you're wearing boxing gloves, you've got this big padded part at the bottom. So you can hammer that into the opponent's vision and hurt them. If I can land this across my opponent's face into their eye and hinder their vision, later in the fight this can set up a beautiful rear hand for me that they won't see coming. Joe Joyce used this technique beautifully against Daniel Dubois. I'll post the highlights to that fight in the description below so you can check it out in a competition environment. Artem Lobov used this in his MMA fights a lot as well. So now we understand what we should be doing with our arms as we punch, let's look at some of the footwork. But you can either throw a jab in motion, so while stepping, or while stationary. Let's begin by looking at the stationary jab. Obviously, with the stationary jab, my feet should stay planted. To generate power in the stationary jab, it's not just about snapping the arm out. As with all punches, the power comes from moving my body weight into the direction of the punch. So in this case, on a straight jab, I want to push my body weight forward. So as the fist leaves my face towards my target, I'm also pushing my body weight forward over my lead leg here. As the punch comes back towards my face, I'm bringing my weight back and returning to my normal fighter stance. The beauty of this is that I also get a couple extra inches reach on my punch. For example, here's my jab with my centre of gravity maintained in the middle, my weight distributed evenly across both legs. Here's the range on my jab when I push my body weight forward over my lead leg to the target. So as you can see, by pushing my weight forward, I'm generating power in my punch and giving myself a few extra inches of reach. Let's look at the stepping jab. There's two ways to throw the stepping jab, either whilst advancing on a straight line, forwards or backwards, or while stepping off laterally to the side. The advantage of throwing a stepping jab whilst advancing is that I get maximum power and range out of my punch. The advantage of throwing a retreating jab is that I can keep my opponent away from me if I'm fighting someone aggressive. When stepping off laterally to the jab, I'm trying to get an advantageous angle on my opponent to set a bigger shot up. Beginning with the advancing jab. The advancing jab is used to get close to your opponent. Because with this jab, I'm pushing all my body weight forward into the punch and actually stepping into the punch forward, I get maximum power. As compared to the lateral jab, where I'm actually moving my body weight away from the direction of the punch, so it's not as powerful. The footwork on the advancing jab should be as follows. As the fist leaves my face, I'm going to step forward with my lead foot. The foot should plant at the same time that the fist connects. On the retraction of the fist, my rear foot is going to follow forward. Now I'm closer to my opponent and I can attack the body or come with these tighter hooks and uppercuts if I want to. So again, as the fist leaves my face towards my opponent, my lead foot is stepping forward. They make contact at the same time, so as the ball of my foot hits the floor, the fist should be hitting the opponent's face. As I retract the fist, my rear leg is taking a small step forward, and now I'm back in my stance, but much closer to my opponent. Unlike the advancing stepping jab where we're trying to close the range on the opponent, the retreating jab is when we're trying to keep range of our opponent. So this would be used against an aggressive opponent so we can keep them at arm's length away and they can't get in the pocket with us. The retreating jab has the same footwork pattern as the advancing jab but in reverse. So, this time, as I throw my jab, rather than stepping forward with the front leg, I'm going to take a step back with the rear leg. Again, as the punch connects, this should be when my foot hits the floor. As I retreat the punch, I'm going to bring my lead leg back into my fighter stance. So again, I throw the jab, the punch goes forward, the foot steps back, they connect at the same time. I retreat the jab and my lead leg at the same time. The idea is, every time an aggressive opponent comes forward and they take a step, I should be taking a step back myself and throwing that jab. This allows me to keep the opponent at arm's reach away so they can't get in the pocket with me and body me around the ring. Whilst not as powerful as stepping on a straight line, we could also step off to the side to create an advantageous angle on our opponent. This jab isn't as powerful because rather than bringing our body weight in the same direction as the punch, we're moving our body almost away from the direction of the punch. Again, not as powerful, but it does give us an advantageous angle. We can step either to the left or to the right. The footwork pattern for the stepping is similar to the advancing or retreating jab. If I'm stepping to the left, I should lead with my left foot. If I'm stepping to the right, I should lead with my right foot. So for example, if stepping to my left, as I throw the jab, my lead foot, my left foot, should step first. Again, that should plant as my fist touches the opponent's face, and as I retract, my right leg should come with me back into stance. If stepping to the right, my right foot should land first. Again, the ball of the right foot should hit the floor as my fist hits the opponent's face, and as I retract, the left foot should come with me back to my stance. The direction I step with my lateral jab will be dictated by my opponent's stance. For example, if I'm fighting an open side battle, which means orthodox versus southpaw, I always want to get my lead foot on the outside of my opponent's. By having my lead foot on the outside of the southpaw's foot, it creates an opening down the centre line for my straight rear hand. Hence why I might want to jab to the left, bring my foot to the outside of theirs, and then throw my rear hand down the middle. Conversely, I wouldn't want to step to the right because that brings my lead foot to the inside of theirs and brings my face onto the trajectory of their rear cross. The same principle applies in reverse to an orthodox fighter. I wouldn't want to step to the left on an orthodox fighter because I'm bringing my head in line to their rear right hand, but I may want to step to the right because it gets me out of the way of their jabbing hand, out of the way of their cross hand, and opens up a nice angle for my own cross. We can throw 2, 3, maybe even 4 jabs in a row to control the range of a fight. When throwing multiple jabs in a row, you should not retreat the jab fully back to your guard. Rather than retreating fully back, you only need to bring the fist back halfway. That means that when you throw your second jab, it doesn't have as far to travel and can reach your opponent quicker. Typically, if I'm throwing 2 jabs whilst advancing forward, this is because I want to chase an opponent and get in the pocket with them. If I'm throwing 2 or 3 jabs whilst retreating, this is because I'm trying to keep an aggressive opponent away from me. The footwork pattern on a double or triple jab is the same as a normal advancing or retreating jab. So, as I jab going forward, I take a step with my front leg. On the half retreat of the fist, the rear leg follows. On the second jab, again, I step forward with the lead leg, and as I retreat, the rear leg follows and comes back to my fighter stance. The reverse footwork pattern can be applied for a retreating jab. So as I jab, step back with the rear leg, half retreat, the front leg comes back, second jab, step back with the rear leg, full retreat, the front leg comes back. As with any strike, you want to change your target as to confuse your opponent. If I'm throwing a body jab, I do not want to punch diagonally down. When punching diagonally down, I'm leaving my face exposed. It's not as though I can round my shoulder to protect my chin, so I have to drop my shoulder to land the jab. So, with the body jab, I want to bend my knees, drop my hips, keep my back straight and throw my jab from this squatted position. This kind of looks a bit like a double leg in MMA, so you can use this to confuse your opponents if you're an MMA fighter. With the body jab, because I may want to protect myself from looping shots coming over the top, I can afford to flare my elbow as I punch this time. Although, the flare should not come in 2 parts, so it's not flaring the elbow then extend, but rather as I punch, the elbow's flaring, the shoulders rounding to protect my chin. Robert Whittaker does this a lot. I'm unlikely to get countered with a body hook here because it's unlikely that my opponent's going to level change lower than me and hit me in the body as I'm throwing that body jab. Apply the body jab with the principle of the double or triple jab. so you can change the levels on your opponent. Again, particularly effective in MMA for setting up takedowns. For example, let's say I throw a head jab, hit level change, hit the body jab 2 times in a fight. Maybe on the 3rd time after landing this combination, I want to change it. So I jab to the head, level change, and this time a double legs come in. But my opponent's expecting a body jab, and that element of surprise allows me to land the takedown. As you get more confident with your striking, you'll realise that you can begin to break the rules of striking. For example, you're always taught to keep your guard high, but you'll notice that elite level fighters always have their hands down. Personally, I like to keep my right hand high, round my front shoulder, and keep my lead hand about chest level. By keeping the lead hand chest level, when I throw my jab, I jab upwards in between my opponent's guard. This is hard for people to block because you're always taught to parry or slip jabs that accompany you on a straight trajectory, so the unusual angle catches a lot of people off guard. On a separate note, by keeping my lead hand low, for MMA purposes, if someone enters a takedown on me, it's as though I've already got an underhook readily available to defend. You may have saw some fighters land what is called the corkscrew jab. The corkscrew jab is similar to a traditional jab, but rather than the fist landing horizontally with the palm down, you land the jab with the palm facing up, kind of like a really long uppercut. Again, a very unusual jab that people find hard to block because they're just not used to having them thrown at them. This punch is traditionally thrown when you've slipped to the outside of a big shot and you want to throw your corkscrew jab up the middle. With this punch, as you throw it, you're going to pop your lead hip into the punch and drive your body weight in the same trajectory to generate that power. To see a really good example of a corkscrew jab, watch some of Bellator's Adrian Lee. So that just about concludes this overview of the fundamentals of jabbing. If you have any questions, please feel free to write a comment below and I'll do my best to get back to you. If you've enjoyed this content, please press the like button below and subscribe for more technical martial arts videos. Thank you for your time.